Today we are going to be combining two things that we've learned before. So we're going to get through these notes pretty quick, and as far as examples go, we're not going to work through a whole bunch of them. Okay, we are not going to work through a whole bunch of them because we've had, so put that away please. We've had this before with decimals in 6th grade, yesterday. So we should know how to do this. Those of you who may have done poorly in yesterday's homework, you are not working with your integer rules. You need to remember the integer rules. Memorize those. For some reason, you are being very reluctant to look at your integer review notes. You should have those out when you're working on this today. Some of you might be able to finish this homework in class today, but that's not necessarily the case. So that's the reason why we are going to see the top of this, and you don't have to write that because we wrote that last Tuesday. The addition property of equality. If you add the same number, including decimals, to each side of an equation, the two sides remain equal. The two sides remain equal. Thank you. Subtraction property of equality. If you subtract the same number from both sides of an equation, pencil. Did you get that from somebody, or did you come unprepared?
No.
Then why were you creeping on my desk earlier? Do you have a question for me? You needed something? No? Okay. Because it looked like you came up and asked somebody for a pencil. All right. Both sides remain equal if you do that. Now, here I have in-class examples. Y plus 7.2 is equal to 21.9. And because this is an equation, I have to think to myself, what is happening to the variable? And that's the first question I need to have. What is happening to the variable? Well, 7.2 is being added to it. So I have to undo that with the inverse. So I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality by subtracting whatever's happening to the variable, or subtracting the number that's being added to the variable. So I'm going to take minus 7.2. I remember I need to line up my decimals. Yes, sir?
So if it's really like, if it's a plus sign, then it's going to be minus in it, but if it's a minus sign, then it's a plus in it?
Yes, you're doing the inverse, the opposite of it. The opposite of addition is subtraction, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. So you're just doing the opposite of it. How do you make that y be by itself? Because it's asocial. You add, or you just do the inverse of what's happening to it. 7.2 is being added to it, so I'm going to take away 7.2. I have to keep the subtraction property of equality correct, so I'm going to subtract 7.2 from this side, which would leave 7, 1, 4, and it's going to be a positive 4.7. No, 14.7. Thank you. Positive 14.7. And I can double check myself so there's no wreckage by going back in 14.7 plus 7.2. And I do have what it was, which is 21.9. Now I have number 2. We have 13.7 equals B minus 5. But I'm going to do something with this because on your homework there are at least 3 questions that are not like this. It's actually a 2-step equation, but you're just going to have to take my word for it for today. I want you to rewrite this, please. Please rewrite this as 13.7 equals 5 minus B. Five minus B.
And that's the answer?
Huh? The answer is whenever a variable is defined.
I have a lot to learn, don't I?
Yeah, we all do. One button. What's happening to the variable on this guy? Yeah.
He's being a stranger.
No? No. It's being subtracted from 5. So not only is this different than you've had, it's actually backwards because the B is doing something to it, and there's two different ways of doing this. I'm going to show you both of them, the way that you're going to learn in the future, and also the way that just works for what we're doing. So here's what works for what we're doing. What's the opposite of a positive 5? Gersh? Negative 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both of these. Subtract 5 from this one as well. So that would leave negative B over on that side. And this is just going to be 18.7. Because 13.7 minus, or negative 13.7 minus 5.0 is just like adding, because it's becoming more negative. But B is not by itself, is it? There's a negative next to it. So on your homework, if this is happening, I just want you to switch the sign of both sides, please. We haven't gotten into that, and we will in the future, but right now, just switch the sign on both sides. And the other way to do that would be like this. That's the other way of doing it. Okay, that's a two-step equation. We don't do that until fourth quarter. Yes?
I kind of get how you could like change the signs. It's kind of like on the other side. It's kind of like inverse operations at the same time, isn't it? If you have both of those negatives, and you can just switch them.
Yep, actually what we're doing when we switch those negatives, we're dividing by -1. We're dividing by -1. Now, my accelerated kids really struggle with this concept. -1 is actually equal to -1 times 1, but that's what's happening. So there are 3 questions like that. Number 2, that's why I wanted to rewrite it. And I'm probably going to take a screenshot of that and put it on my website. All right. This one here, what's happening to the variable? 4.1 is being taken away from it. So to make variable by itself, I have to add 4.1 to both sides. So this is just m over here. And then I have my integer rules. It's 2 different things. Or it's 2 different signs. So I'm going to subtract the smaller one. And the -9 is the bigger number, so I'm going to make that negative. There we go. And if you're lost on that, you need to have your integer rule stuff out when we work. Okay? Now let's think about it. What property of equality do you use to solve the equation x minus 5.3 equals 6.8? Which property of equality? So it's going to be one of these two. Either this one or that one. Which property of equality? Yeah, that's why. The addition property of equality is correct. The addition property of equality, because it's subtraction and its inverse is addition. It's subtraction and its inverse is addition. Kobe, stop trying to get people's attention. Now I want you to do these. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I would like you to do number 2 and number 3 on your own, and then we are going to discuss what would be a good, best, and bad answers. Go ahead. Yes. Looking good so far. I think that you guys are putting some thought into it, which is good. Can you sign right there? Sorry. All right, and we're back, We're back. And with this one here, you should have something along the lines of the addition property of equality because it's talking about subtraction. And you should be saying how you have to add 8.9. Okay, you have to add 8.9 to this because 8.9 is being taken away from the variable. Okay? Thank you. Then we have number 3. Tell how you know that 6.9 is not the solution to n plus 8.5, which is equal to 14.7. Adam.
Because you would add more than you were supposed to. If you add them together.
Good. That's one way to do it. You could talk about how it wouldn't come out to be true, which is good. There's a key that we've been doing.
I said that I know it's not the answer because if you check your work, 6.9 plus 8.5 equals.
Good. So if you check your work by substituting in what the variable is, if that's wrong, you're wrong. All right? If that's wrong, you're wrong. So luckily, the quiz on Thursday, you can check all of your answers to know if you got it correct. And the quiz next Thursday or next Friday, we can do the same thing. So substituting in and checking your work, and it doesn't come out to be 15.7.com. Okay? All right, that's a combination of what you've all written. All right. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you. It's true, I didn't, and I'm recording, so I'm definitely not going to annoy people with that voice.
That voice, though. Why did you not do Marty?
All right. Because a lot of times it's because you guys do enough to distract yourself and get unfocused. I don't need me doing that. We're going to do number 15. Because the reason why we're only going to do number 15 is because someone last period wanted to see that one, and that is a good one because it deals with a plus negative number. Ooh, also, a lot of you got confused by number 11. Similar questions to number 11 on the quiz on Friday last week. Okay? Just because H is over here doesn't mean that we're going to start reading like Arabic right to left. Okay? It's still H minus 22. It's still H minus 22. Okay? 0.7. Still H minus 22.7. It just so happens to be that the equal sign is over there. Okay? So let's do 15. Now, here's a situation where we have something happening to the variable. It is d plus 7.03. It is d plus 7.03. First thing we need to do is we always check to see what's happening to the variable. So how am I going to do the opposite of what's happening to the variable? Logan? How? Stick with me. Stick with me. Rather than playing with your hands, stick with me. Wilgus, can you help me out? Keep, change. Okay, that's an option for you. Beautiful. You keep doing that, and I know you understand that, but I want you to think what's happening to the variable, what's the sign Next to it. Quinn, I haven't heard from you today. Yes, okay, beautiful. The variable is being added by something. So I have to subtract that something. Put that away. Here, you know what? Since you seem to understand it, you don't need to follow along. You continue with it. Then put that away and focus. It'd be a different situation if this was ridiculously easy and you could teach it yourself. That's the time where I can be like, okay, you're drawing a picture because you know this. So I need to subtract. As Quinn just said, I need to subtract. And I'm going to subtract negative 7.03. Now, what are you guys ripping your shoulders out trying to get my attention to say? Because what am I going to say next, Wes?
You're going to, what happens when you subtract the negative that's adding.
Right? Negative, negative, positive. Negative, negative, positive. So that's the same thing as doing plus 7.03. Just think of in Spanish and other languages, when you have a double negative, it's more negative. But in English, you have a double negative, it becomes positive in language. So that just puts D over here, and then I'm just adding 7.03 plus 98, which is 8.01 positive. Yes, ma'am.
So if the variable is being added to a negative, you're going to take away the negative instead of, because normally we add.
Think of this. Okay? Whatever blah is, right? Whatever blah is, since it's D plus blah, I'm going to subtract blah, right? And our blah just so happens to be our blah just so happens to be a negative 7.03. So we are going to subtract negative 7.03. And whenever we have negative minus a negative, it becomes plus. All right? Any questions on that? Okay. And I'm going to end this. We're going to do all these examples will be on my website.